Hello, my loves, and welcome back again to another episode. Today, we are going to talk all about what is your true source of power. And I've been feeling very called about this. Sorry, just this piece of hair on me. I've been feeling very called to talk about this um, and very inspired by a lot of things that I've seen lately in the community, in the collective. I think it is amazing that I have been seeing so many people really coming into their own, personally and spiritually. It's so great to see how much awakening is happening, how much growing is happening. And along with that, um, there's an increasing number of people who are also sharing their newfound wisdom and healing and their spiritual practices. And I just think all of it is so wonderful. And yet, at the same time, on the other side of the coin, part of why I felt really called to talk about this is because on the other side, unfortunately, what we have is a number of people who are just getting really kind of like lost in the fog. They're getting kind of confused and really overstimulated by like the outpouring of how much information is out there, of how many different practices and communities are coming up to the surface. And unfortunately, another byproduct of that is that we have a number of quote unquote spiritual leaders who are now offering their services in a way that is much more about manipulation and personal gain and money and chaos than it is about anything else. It's really, there's unfortunately just so many people out there who are um, keeping people kind of stuck in their confusion instead of helping them to find clarity, instead of being voices of love and life force creation. And so I felt just so called to remind everyone that no matter what you're practicing, no matter what culture or multiple cultures your practices come from, no matter whether you are more on like lunar cycle stuff or astrology stuff or prayer stuff, like whatever it is, the message and the intention is really all the same, right? Everything always points to the same thing, and that is that when you connect more directly and more intimately with Source, with our Creator, with God, the universe, you remember that Source implanted itself within you. You remember that you and Source are one and the same, and you awaken from your illusion of separateness, right? There's such an incredible power within that. There's such an incredible, almost like an awakening all of its own that comes from that. When you start to realize that your willpower and the willpower of Source is one and the same, when what you desire and what creator desires for you are one and the same, right? And suddenly when you really awaken to that and when you really receive that, suddenly it's like all bets are off, right? Because you start to really see yourself and your life through the lens that Source sees you through. And when that happens, you gain so much clarity starts to flow through, so much alignment starts happening just with ease and with more joy, even. And suddenly, your bridge of divine incidents just starts kind of like building all on its own, right? And the more that you just kind of lean into that, the more that you also awaken from the illusion of fear. You start to remember that there is no fear. And you start to on some level, and I'm just going to vocalize it, that your brain is really just a processor, right? It's just a processor for information coming in, and a lot of people are running that processor on a program called survival version 3.0 or 5.0, right? All information taken in from your environment is run through that filter that determines whether something is a threat or not. And while that may have been helpful for our ancestors, like long, long ago, right? Most threats today are simply on our ego and our conditioned beliefs, which make up part of our ego, right? So, really, most of it is just on your ego. And I'll bet that if you took a few minutes, 1:11 on the clock right now, I'll bet that if you just took a few minutes to pause and think about that and think about kind of some of your day-to-day life experiences, I'll bet that you would start to see how true that really is. That the vast majority of the things that you feel threatened by or that scare you are not anything to do with your physical well-being, and it's not to do with the ability to have any of your needs met. It is more to do with your ego and with your conditioned beliefs. And so part of awakening to this true power means that you start to see how healthy and how freeing and how refreshing it is to let your ego die, to let those conditioned beliefs wither and fall away. And within that space that is created within your soul, within your being, you now have created the space for more of your native divinity and more of your direct connection to source to be in that space, to allow more space for that which is divine, which is you, your authenticity, which is truth, which is love, right? Which is harmony and peace, which is co creation and collaboration, which is infiniteness, life eternal, which is freedom, right? The more that we just allow ourselves to confront those things that we maybe think give us power, that we feel like we can just control or manipulate, but then when we look deeply at them, we see that those are actually really fear-based feelings. And so when we allow those fears to wither away and fall off, we we therefore allow ourselves to create that space for more of who we actually are and for more of who source has created us to be. Right? There's you can I bet you can already feel like how much power that is. Power is not about manipulation, it's not about control, and it's definitely not about fear, right? Despite what a lot of the world would have us believing. It is a lot more about your truth. It is about who you truly are, and it is about having that oneness with all life creation and with source itself, right? When there is no fear, there is no separation. And there is also no separation between you and the desires that Creator coded you with, right? You want love because you were designed for love. You want health and wellness because you're designed for health and wellness. You want purpose and fulfillment because that's what you're designed for. You want abundance because that's what you're designed for, right? Your desires are source codes for your destiny. And some of these things right now, so far in life, they maybe seem to flow pretty easily to you, and then others maybe not so much, because again, we're our brain is running on this processor, our human brain, right? And that's why it's so important to remind yourself, I am not my mind and I'm not my body, right? Because your brain is running um this this processor, right? And so information coming in gets filtered through that processor. And so some of what you desire right now seems threatening or scary, or you feel unworthy of it for whatever reason. And so your brain will tell you that it's not safe for you to have for some reason or another, right? And yet, when we again come back into that space of true power, of that oneness with source, and we remember that everything is energy, we can find this quantum field of equal standing with all that is. We can remember that all energy is neutral. It's only in our humanness that we either feel separate from it or that we put it up on a pedestal, right? It's only in our humanness that we place meaning and value on anything and everything we come into contact with, whether it's something we truly desire or not. And it's just, this is a lifelong practice, just so you know. I'm not going to say like, oh yeah, now I get it, like it's all neutral, it doesn't really matter, you know, and like overnight you just magically have this switch. It is a thing that takes nurturing. This is like the information is providing, and then the love that you pour into it is the nurturing. This is a new perspective that needs to be nurtured over time, especially because once you find that you may be successful with it one time, does not necessarily mean that you'll be as easily successful with a different one of your desires, right? Because it all just depends on what type of meaning and value we've placed on each thing, right? But we can come back to that ultimate universal divine truth that all energy is neutral, and so it is all on equal standing, including you. You are also on equal standing with all that you desire. So when manifestation coaches or other spiritual coaches maybe talk about becoming like a vibrational match to what you want, have you heard that before? Like, oh, just become a vibrational match to money. That even makes it sound like money is vibrating on a different frequency than you're vibrating on, right? And that also makes it feel separate from you. That almost like feeds into the problem in the first place. But if all energy is neutral, then all we have to do is become neutral, right? And I know we've talked before, and a lot of other spiritual coaches will also talk about the power of gratitude. And so these two things need to go hand in hand, this neutrality and this gratitude. And so we'll talk about one first and then the other. So the neutrality part is where you kind of realize within yourself, like, okay, it would be great to have this thing, but I'm not going to die if I don't get it. I don't need it, right? Whenever you feel like, oh, I need this, I have to have it, right? Then you start getting that anxious, and then as a result, you naturally start to try to control and manipulate the circumstances in which you try to force it into manifestation, right? And again, if you've listened to like the last episode or the episode before, I've talked about how when we do that, we non-consciously are choking off the energy of what we want when we do that, right? We get into that space of like, oh, I need it, right? And so and that's because energetically it's charged. There's an energetic charge attached to it, which is a direct result of the value and the meaning that we put on that thing, right? So to neutralize the charge means to take away the meaning and the value that we've assigned to it. And then we just, right? Whoo, deep breath. Yeah, we just go like, oh, it would be great to have this thing, but I'm not going to die without it. But, and I hear my good friend Cindy Sue in my head right now. She's like, and since I do want it, and I know that my desires are my source codes to my destiny, I will be in the energy of having it already, and I will act as if I have it already, and then I will sit back and relax knowing that I am one with Source, so His will and my will are one and the same, and my actions are met with even greater actions on His part and the part of my spirit team to bring me what I want in the perfect way and in the perfect timing, right? We get to that space of equal standing with what we want. And then we have this gratitude portion, right? So it is really helpful, again, to remember as I said, that your desires are your source codes to your destiny. In other words, what you want, what you desire, what you will be grateful for when you have it, it wants you back. Right? If you will be grateful for having it, it will also be grateful for being yours. And not only that, but all energy desires to expand. So when you practice feeling grateful for having that thing, you are also practicing thinking and feeling about what else you will create with that thing once you have it, right? And because that thing is energy, it wants to expand, and so it wants to come to you so that you can make it grow and expand. And so that's the part where we we bridge that gap from just becoming neutral and kind of like, sitting back and waiting. Like manifestation and really sitting in your true power and receiving and stepping into your true power is not a waiting game. There's no power in waiting. There is lots of power in co-creating with the universe, which happens when we when we again feel that gratitude, when you can already feel how grateful you are for something you want, and for also the gratitude for what you will create with that thing, or when you have that thing that will allow you to do the creation part, right? That's the part where it goes, oh yeah, that's a way that I definitely want to expand. I'm going to get to you quicker so we can get this road on the show. Right? And so what is your true source of power really? It is your willpower exercised in oneness with source. Not willpower exercised in control and manipulation and fear, not willpower exercised in worry, not any of that. It is willpower exercised with oneness with source. It is willpower exercised with faith. It is willpower from a place of love and from your place of authenticity, because true authenticity is being who you truly are in your divinity, in your inherent divinity. Remember how I said the more we clear out our fears and our conditioned beliefs, the more we make space for that divinity, right? So the more that we make space for that divinity, for our authenticity, for who we truly are, the more space we create for that oneness with source, the more space we create for the desires that we were meant to have all along. And I am absolutely certain that the more that you again allow yourself to create that space, to allow your conditioned beliefs to fall off, to allow your ego to die, like probably a few times, the more that you lean into your divine authenticity, into the feeling of that gratitude and the things that make your soul feel like velvet, right? The more that you lean into those things, the more that you will find the things that you used to desire are no longer the things that you really desire. The more you will find, like, hey, I'm a different person now than I was. And so, what I truly desire to do with my life is a little bit different. And that means I want different things now. And that's amazing because that's what you were sent here to do. You were sent here to grow in love, to expand in freedom, to be authentic, to be your true self, to expand in your divinity, to put a drop in the pond of the universe that ripples out and has positive change on the world around you. We're all here for that, right? So I put together a few questions because I know that sometimes this can sound all really like etheric and kind of like okay, that sounds great, but maybe now I'm not really positive how I'm going to go about just kind of implementing some things like today. And so I put together, and I'm going to start doing this with every native growth episode. I put together a few questions that you can journal on starting today. You can come back to them over and over as you grow on your journey, right? But most importantly, remember, first of all, that whenever you do hit a bump in the road, it's nothing for you to kind of, what I say, get on your spirit phone. That is to say a prayer. It's nothing for you to kind of get on your spirit phone and go right to source and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please send me a sign? Can you send me a person to help me? Can you send me a resource? Please help me in this way with something. And then again, let it go and trust it, right? Right? That's part of your true source of power, is moving in faith, right? You can also, this is something that I think a lot of spiritual people kind of practice, but maybe not enough. And so I just want to encourage you, if you haven't done it before, if you've done it for some things and maybe not for others, that you can also, at any point in time, call upon the spirit team that was assigned to you at birth. And you can do it just by saying exactly that. You know, you're hitting a bump in the road, you're getting stuck on something seems more challenging than it should be or whatever, and you just, hey, I'm calling on my spirit team assigned to me at birth. Come here and please help me with this thing. Please send me a resource, a person. Please guide me to the thing. Whatever it is that you need. You can call upon one or both. There, I was listening to a spiritual coach recently, and she was saying that God is not a pot of coffee, right? It is nothing for him to take a few minutes out of his or hers, its day, or for any one of your spirit team members. It's nothing for them to take the time, quote unquote, out of their day to hear you and to receive the fact that you're asking for something because you're trying to grow, because you're trying to become better, choose better, do better, right? You are on your journey that is, in the most vague term, improvement, right? You're trying to make things better in some shape or form, and it's what they're here for. They're here for that purpose, to help you. So call on them whenever you need. And in the meantime, here are the questions that I've put together for you so that you can nurture yourself on this journey and start to just maybe bring some awareness to these spaces in which you can nurture this true source of power, your willpower, your oneness, right? So question number 1, what answers have I been seeking from other people that I should be trusting myself and my spirit team with instead? Number 2, where have I been giving away my power over my own thoughts, feelings, constitution, and destiny? Number 3, what have I been processing through the filter of fear instead of through the filter of love, joy, creation, divinity, or freedom? Number 4, where can I be more faithful and trusting instead of controlling and fearful? Number 5, where can I invite more collaboration with Source and enjoy the journey with exploration and curiosity? Super key feelings to have here. Number 6, where can I focus, hone, and commit more of my energy? And this is also super important because remember that old adage, like God helps those who help themselves, right? But if you're doing a million things all at once, then you're not committing your energy to the one thing that you want right now, right? And so because the universe is a mirror to your energy, which I talked a lot about in the last episode, if you're scattering your energy, the universe is going to mirror that back to you with a bunch of scattered energy. If you hone and commit your energy, God helps those who help themselves. You commit and hone your energy. You focus your intention, right? You move with intention. the universe mirrors that back to you with intention and commitment to that same thing. And the last one, which is really like a two-part question. The first part is, what desires am I still feeling energetically charged about and why? And maybe this is actually like a great place to start, just to kind of start, working on this path. And the second part to that question is, how can I nurture those parts of myself to allow those desires to come into neutrality and gratitude for me? And that's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all so much. If you have any questions about anything, comments, anything like that, you can just comment right here, or there is a link if you're listening to this on a podcast streaming platform. There's a link where you can send almost like a virtual text to me, which is super cool. So it'll like text me your questions or comments. You can also click on the link in my link tree and just send me a DM or an email or anything like that. The link in my link tree also has my current offerings up for those who desire to be in closer proximity with me and to work with me more intimately in one-on-one sacred space. I would be so, so honored to do that for you at any time that you're ready. And thank you just so much for being here and for nurturing yourself in this way today. I love you so much. Have the best week, have the best day, and I will see you in a week or two. Mwah.